This is Jay Diff with the New Old Heads, and we just wrapped up episode 425, where we discussed Kid Rock and how he compared himself to Kendrick, whether that be a good way or a bad way. Drake tops Kendrick because of Kendrick? I don't know. And Gelo and the problem with nepotism and why he got to perform at the NBA All-Star game. We had a conversation about A$AP Rocky. All right, I'm going to have to start off. Y'all doing too much talking, man. Make sure you like and subscribe. This is episode 425. Peace.
You're listening to the New Old Heads podcast, shot live every Tuesday at twitch.tv/newoldheads and released every Thursday at noon via bringingdowntheband.com. The show is brought to you by Coleman Dental, Indie CD and Vinyl. Support the show directly by becoming a member at patreon.com/newoldheads.
You are now tuned in to the New Old Heads podcast. I am Major 7th. The brothers are in the building, starting off with my man Jay Moore. How are you, good sir?
Doing well, you know, coming off an all-star weekend. I mean, it's not like I was there, but it's just an all-star weekend nonetheless.
I thought you was balling for a second. My man Lonegevity, how are you, sir?
Doing all right. How are you?
Great.
Feeling better?
Yeah, man. Allergies is trash. My man DJ Jay Diff, what's happening, man?
Salutations.
How are you, good sir?
I'm good, my friend.
Yeah. Good to see you, gentlemen. Last week's show was very good, very entertaining. Shout out to the brother to the night for filling in for myself.
Indeed.
Did a great job.
All right. So with everything coming to the close of the Super Bowl, this might be the last conversation we kind of talk about, even though it's not like super connected. It kind of is a little bit. So Kid Rock joined Real Time with Bill Maher. So not only did he show some respect for Kendrick Lamar's Super Bowl halftime show performance in the appearance on the show, but he also said that he doesn't think it would have happened without the NFL's DEI initiatives. Yet, Kid Rock also mocks DEI at the same time for being bullshit, suggesting that he lacks the understanding of what DEI actually is and the importance in a society built off of white supremacy. So the question becomes like, is this the case, or is he just trying to own the libs, aka Bill Maher, or is there something else involved? But here's the clip so we can actually kind of see it all in real time. No pun intended.
I see what you did there.
I mean, or maybe there was.
What did you think of this year's Super Bowl? I mean, you mentioned DEI. People complained about that.
To put it nicely, it wasn't my cup of tea, but I got to respect it. And here's why. You know, I grew up loving, emulating hip-hop, all things hip-hop, breakdancing, DJing, graffiti, rapping. I understand the culture a little bit more than most. And when I say most, of course, I mean white people. After there's a lot of things going through your head. You know, everyone's like, that sucked, this, that, and the other. I'm like, this kid pretty much came out figuratively with both middle fingers in the air, doing what he does for the people who love what he does, unapologetically. I don't think he gives a frog's fat ass what anyone thinks about it.
Like you.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, so I go, it's pretty much how I built my whole career. I got to respect it.
Right. Yeah, okay, there we go. Common ground.
I think a lot of people, I've heard nobody answer this question yet, like, how did he get that gig? Jay-Z. All right, what happened there? I think Jay-Z and Kendrick Lamar should both send Colin Kaepernick a bundt cake and a six-pack of beer and a thank you note with a bunch of money in it. Because without him kneeling and getting everyone's panties in a bunch over the anthem, self-included, I don't think that happens. And by the way, wait, one more point. This was the epitome of DEI. Like, this was the epitome of DEI blowing up. Because, you know, the NFL was on this DEI and racism, all this stuff. They got Jay-Z in there booking this. And, like, Kendrick Lamar goes out there and basically turns DEI into an IED. It's like, it's all black people, or all people of color, speaking to his crowd in the hood, black people. It was, like, the most non-exclusive, or the most exclusive thing ever. And I'm like, yeah, that's awesome. I'm laughing my ass off.
Okay.
There's a lot to unpack there.
You know what?
So
the thing he said about Colin Kaepernick and them sending him some money and some beer and flowers or whatever, he's exactly right there. And I've been very much critical of Kid Rock for a lot of different reasons on this show. But I tell you what, that particular thing that he said, he's very right. Because, you know, I remember seeing that particular clip when you see Jay-Z sitting in the room with Roger Goodell and, you know, that whole thing of, and this is something I think will, when they talk about the totality of Jay-Z's entire career, might bite him in the ass a little bit, is when he says, you know, we're past kneeling. And this, but mind you, when he said we're past kneeling, this is before George Floyd. This is before, all of a sudden it just got crazy with the amount of police misconduct. But I do think Jay-Z was brought to the table because it's like, okay, we can't be seen as so against just think about the majority of the NFL workforce as far as the product you see on the field.
Right.
We cannot be seen as being against them. That's why I think the NFL has still said, we're committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion. Now, what that means to whoever hears that, it can mean a lot of different things because, if you knew what DEI actually stood for, because what it is, they frame it to where you hear DEI and you hear black people.
Yep. Exactly.
But they don't say it to where it includes women. It doesn't include people with disabilities. It doesn't include veterans because that's really who's at the top of the list as far as DEI is concerned. But that's another conversation. We're just going to get back to what Kid Rock said. I do believe that, Jay-Z was in a position, has been in the position to pick the halftime shows. And honestly, you can say it's DEI or whatever. It's a result of Colin Kaepernick. But when you look at the numbers, it was the right move for the NFL and Roger Goodell to make.
Which is kind of the case with most DEI programs. It's actually, this whole narrative that's been co-opted, which has been co-opted many times, just like woke got co-opted.
Yeah,
exactly.
All these other things that
just
got
like
co-opted.
CRT got co-opted.
It's like DEI. No, it's in place for a reason, and it doesn't mean you pick the worst candidates. It just means that you have a larger pool of candidates to choose from. That's all that it means. I mean, it means more than that, but
without the optics just being on one group of people.
Yeah, it doesn't mean only black people.
Exactly.
And that's literally what it's turned into.
Or only Hispanics or
only veterans or only it makes it to where, hey, you're in a lot of people in corporate America are in a position where they can ignore these folks. Look, I can make it a little bit personal. When I used to hire people for this fundraising program situation here in town, I'll say it, WFYI. I used to work for the PBS and NPR affiliate.
Yeah, I'll say it.
Yeah. Why not? It's a good 10 years since I've been gone. I used to hire people on the phone because, first of all, it was basically a situation where you were trying to fundraise over the phone. So if you could convince me that you were able to do the job over the phone, that's how I was able to hire you. But also, there might have been some bias if you came in and you were in a wheelchair, or you came in and you were too old, or you came in whatever, that might have peppered how I felt about you and whether or not I wanted to hire you for a particular program. Now, I'm not saying that I would not have hired, these people based on these things, but I know I took that particular thing off the table because I hired everybody over the phone. So people would come to the room where the call center was, and it'd be a guy who was a Korean War veteran. It would be a guy in a wheelchair. It'd be, someone fresh out of college. I had someone who was in high school work for me. It was truly a meritocracy because if you couldn't convince me over the phone that you deserved a job, I figured you couldn't convince me or you couldn't convince our donors over the phone to continue to contribute money. Now, like I said, I'm not saying like that was my thing. But you just have to understand that, there aren't people that have a certain mentality to where like, I'll just hire my idiot cousin who needs a job and I'll put that person in place before I put someone in place who's actually talented enough to do what I need them to do.
Like the current regime in the White House.
And that same thing is going on now. I mean, we talked about nepotism and that's been going on across the board in every position, every company. I don't care where you talking about. It's happened. You know what I'm saying?
We've all seen it.
I don't personally, in certain instances, I don't see anything wrong with it. But there are a lot of candidates that weren't qualified for that job, and they just got it based on nepotism.
And it's
my issue with him, though, with what Kid Rock said. I mean, a broken clock is right at least twice a day. So he got some things right with this conversation, but he also got some things wrong. My issue with him on this whole DEI thing and Kendrick is why do people, well, some white people, not all, but a lot of white people deem blackness as DEI and scary? Because that's exactly pretty much what he's saying on this performance. Kendrick's performance was real black and was real pretty much
it's for people in the hood.
Yeah, that was
it was against the system as a whole.
Yeah.
It didn't pinpoint any one person or one group. This is the system. We live in a system in America that needs to be fixed and things need to be addressed. So he addressed it in his way. It wasn't like in your face, but the people that got it. There's a lot of people that didn't get it. That's my problem with him as far as this being a DEI situation. And then Kendrick has always used black people for his performances. He's black. Just like if Kid Rock gets up there and performs, I'm pretty sure everybody on the stage in his band are probably going to be white.
Well,
he
actually said on this, he's like, no, this is actually interesting that you say that, because right after this part in this conversation that he was having with Bill was he mentioned, he's like, a lot of the people in my old bands were black and different, or whoever was the best, it wasn't any of this DEI bullshit. It's just kind of like, how can you on one hand,
that's not DEI
say,
though.
For sure. Exactly. Yeah. Right. It's just like this really dumbified down thing.
I see where you're going.
It's always like, why does a certain demographic always fall for this, or are they really falling for it? They're not really falling for it, but like, how are you so smart about this? Like being able to decipher that Kendrick Lamar is reversing DEI with all black people, and then not also understand over here that that's not actually what it
has nothing to do with it.
How do you understand this complex idea, but you fail on this really simple one?
But MC Hammer did the same exact thing. When MC Hammer went on tour with all of his dancers and singers, everybody was black. But that doesn't have anything. That's not a slight against anybody else. And I think what people don't understand is just because my group or my representation is a representation of me does not mean that this is DEI. This is just me. This is who I am. I mean, there's white people that work for PG Lang. They're not performers, but they work for the PG Lang company. So I don't understand what is so scary about a bunch of black people performing at the Super Bowl.
But it always appears that black culture, to your point, it always comes off as it's spooky or it's scary and it's alienating everybody else that's in the crowd. But you never hear that about any other races when it comes to a performance. That's all I see. He alienated everybody. Nobody in the stadium in the world could relate. What? Just because he's speaking to where he comes from and he used his culture to perform and use that platform, what's the problem?
Well, the problem is white supremacy. And,
all right.
And not to just throw a random term out there, because it's not, but like that's where all this is derived from. That's why DEI initiatives exist in the first place, is because people recognize that this is a thing and that certain people are marginalized more than others, and that there needs to be some sort of check and some type of check and balance in place to kind of balance the playing field to some degree. So
there's
it's
a disconnect somewhere that to where people think that being black is not American.
That's part of it. That is a large part of it, to where there's always been an otherness assigned to. It doesn't matter how many wars we fight in. It doesn't matter, how many presidents we have. It doesn't matter what it is that we contribute to the fabric of America. It's always like, but you're not really American. And that's, I think about, we always talked about the greatest generation, the people who won World War II. Yeah, but when you really start digging into the stories that black World War II veterans tell, especially about when they came home, there's no ticker tape parade. When you see all that video, you don't see any black soldiers. When it was time for them to get the GI Bill, something just wasn't going on. Something didn't happen. So, a lot of times you say the greatest generation, but when you really look at the great, quote unquote, greatest generation, they're really racist.
Yes.
And I know that's something that's very hard to hear, especially if your white grandfather fought in World War II. It may not have been his fault, but like, you can watch any story. There's a story I wish I could remember on Netflix right now about, the black female,
that's what I was actually going to bring up.
And it was like, we were trying to win a war.
Yes.
And we still had to fight white racism.
Yeah, they literally were sent to the worst place they could be sent to, had to redo the whole thing for
what are you
was
talking
it, the
about?
Air Force.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's what he's saying. He's talking about a specific movie during the World War II.
Movie. Okay.
Yeah, that's about women soldiers.
I see.
Who were sent overseas to fight in this war and were given dilapidated conditions, and they themselves had to pretty much
create their own
barracks. They had to build their own barracks up, and then their job was to get the mail delivered to soldiers, well, not soldiers, to their family back home, because they weren't receiving the mail.
And it was a morale problem as far as, and that's, and when you watch this, it's like, the United States is trying to win a war, but couldn't stop being racist. Even in the throat. I mean, it's the same thing with the Tuskegee Airmen.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, and when they got back home, it was like, there was no thank you for your service. It was like, just just get out of here.
we need to-
So I mean, there's a lot, and we just think, okay, Martin Luther King came along, and it's all better,
gone.
and the Cosby Show came on, and you elected Barack Obama, and there's no more racism, and it's like, no, there are still systemic problems and things that we have to address and have to be honest about.
Yeah.
That's the problem. We don't want to be honest about that.
Yeah,
like I
so
said,
we need to get to the core root of the problem here, which is just because something is black does not deem it not American. So his performance was actually very American. It was American to the core.
Yeah.
When you talk about things that happen, you got the Uncle Sam representation, you had the flag. Now there was symbolic things going on with that, but it was still American. And I think that people need to hold others accountable for acting like black isn't American at the end of the day.
And also, the most American thing is we got to get this dirty foreigner up off our soil coming up here thinking he can run rap music, which is an American idea. So get him out of here. Get Canada off the stage.
Hey, listen, that's a whole nother situation that I want to address when we talk about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very, I mean, I'm not going to go too deep into this, but this is why I don't talk to half of my family. Not literally. And,
No,
and
we
why,
know.
And why half my family has literally had the conversation. Like, I've tried to have conversations with certain family members about my grandfather, who are of the greatest generation and did fight in World War II, and how he's my grandfather and I love him and all this other stuff. And obviously, but it doesn't mean that he didn't do racist things.
Exactly.
And I'm sorry that you can't process that in your head, but I can love my grandfather and also be honest about the things that I saw and witnessed.
Crazy that Jay Moore talked about, you guys are talking about that era, because any elder that I spoke to in my family that served, to your point about your grandfather, it was the total opposite of the ticker tape. It was only people that was happy to see me was my wife,
my family,
and my kids. That's who I came home to. There was no parade, there was no celebration, and they talked about if there was any type of get together at the house, it was all family. Like there was no decorated war veteran. You're coming home and everybody's excited. They just went back to the house.
The white soldiers did not embrace the black soldiers as we're brothers in arms. When we get back to the United States of America, Jim Crow was still in effect. In fact, part of the problems that were affecting morale during World War II is, once again, another story, but I won't get too deep into it. In England, when black soldiers would go to the pubs or whatever they had over there, they'd have to fight the white soldiers because they were like, well, no, they were trying to bring Jim Crow overseas with them. And the thing is, the white pub owners, they would say, okay, to alleviate this problem, we won't let the white soldiers in. You know what I'm saying? And then that caused a problem. And so you had white soldiers literally trying to attack and kill black. Like I said, we're trying to win a war.
Yes, we're supposed to be on the same team.
But racist, that's how important racism is to America. Is like it's not, we can't put a pause on it to even try to win a war.
Watch the movie
and to understand it. Like
watch Red Tails. There's a scene about that in Red Tails.
Yeah,
they go into a bar and automatically start fighting.
Yeah,
their own teammates essentially.
Yeah,
but even like the GI Bill. In the
that's where redlining comes from.
I mean, like my grandfather got money from fighting in World War II to build a house.
Yes.
Yeah.
There's people just now getting money that fought in Vietnam, and it's for health related reasons.
Facts.
Or just saying that, okay, you were in Vietnam, you may have been exposed to Agent Orange, so we're going to pay you now.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Versus when you got home, I'm going to kick you back. So, I mean, this is an ongoing thing with being in this country. And I always hate the divide because it's almost like you act like
you don't know.
We're not here too.
Yeah.
Like our experience may be different than your experience, but at the end of the day, we're still American. I mean, our sound, our music, our influence has been pretty deep as far as what has sown the fabric of America. And I just want it to be respected at the end of the day.
There's no reason to just not acknowledge that. And like us as white Americans, we're not, it's not like it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. Like it's just, it's frustrating to me just in general to like the lack of acknowledgement that I can get some, definitely my elders, just to accept that, things are not exactly as you want them to be. Because even my elders that maybe have a problem with DEI initiatives, bringing it back here and all this stuff, like they think everything is okay now and then it's fine. And it's like, no, it's not. That's why these things exist. And we can literally point to how this has, like, we can follow the path of how this has just turned into a modern day form of it. It's not, of course, it's not as as what it was in the 60s or even the 80s or anything like that, but it has morphed into different forms of things that we can see and we can point out very easily. So
people find a new way to be racist every day. Just like DEI has turned to the new N-word, essentially.
Just like affirmative action
was woke. You know what I'm saying? All of that has turned into
these are just fancy ways.
Yeah, they're the derogatory terms now based off of what you think it is. And I know people always like to say, well, do your research. A lot of people doing the research or claiming they do the research are doing surface level research and don't know exactly what this is. Just like you brought up that DEI doesn't just help black people. A lot of people think that it's only for black people.
That's why you can get them to be so upset about it.
Say that, for him to say this is a DEI situation. Granted, there's some truth, like you said, behind that with the whole Colin Kaepernick situation and Jay-Z being hired and blah, blah, blah. But, I mean, when we talk historically about Super Bowl performances,
you could say that is literally a proponent or a positive thing that has happened because of DEI.
Exactly.
Kendrick is the person that should have been there, and he was, because the right people and things were in place to allow him to be that.
Absolutely.
Right. So what are we saying, Kendrick?
Yeah, because you're pretty much demonizing the situation.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the Super Bowl was too black.
Well, I mean,
just too black.
Yeah, but at the same time, when I look at the charts, and when we always talk about how things are tabulated, and we look at the metrics, it was too pop. Kendrick's going to have the #1 album in the country this week. His song, he has five songs in the top 10. In the top 20.
Yes.
Like when you say too black,
top 10.
So that's almost you. That's literally you saying I'm that much out of touch. When you hear people say these things, I'm that much out of touch of what's actually happening in pop culture right now.
It's crazy. It's crazy. The concept of actually having to fight for respect or steal in something that you were a founder in is the craziest concept to me.
Yeah, because Kid Rock is a DEI hire in the world of hip hop. If you want to deem,
if we're gonna keep it a buck. Yeah, if we're gonna keep it a buck.
And I'm just being funny, just because he uses it. You know what I'm saying?
No, I mean
he said it with such confidence. The DEI comment.
Look, he's a DEI. I don't know if I would call it DEI hire, but once again, like even when you look at what he has on, once again, Kid Rock is a fraud, even if as a white trash hero, if you will. Once again, it doesn't surprise me his political stances these days because this is where he comes from. You know, he was born. And this is not. I'm not knocking being a child of privilege.
No,
you have two people from the polar opposite sides of how they came up with from his city, or not city, but at least surrounding area, Detroit. Yeah, you have Eminem and you have him. When we talk about the white rap artist, so to speak, you know what I'm saying? And Eminem is totally opposite him. I know Eminem and him are cool or whatnot, but they have different views. But when we talk about somebody that doesn't represent what they're talking about or what their music is, his what do you say, his influence coming up, the only person I can point to is Eminem.
But you know, when he talks about, I was influenced by hip hop, the elements is like, so
how did everything?
How did you get from recognizing and being a fan of the elements of hip hop to wearing Confederate flags around your neck?
Because he's a grifter.
Yeah, I mean, like that's, I know the answer.
It's obvious.
You know what I'm saying? I'm putting it out there.
But it's obvious.
Yeah, he's grifting because he realized that it works for him, and he doesn't, he feels more safe around it.
Yeah, but then again, this is, for him, acknowledging the 4 elements. That's cool that you were able to do a little research and you were able to memorize you had some hip hop flashcards or whatever.
He's definitely a hip hop flashcards guy.
But you 100%. Are like you with the Confederate flag on. That's who you are. And don't say, it represents Southern culture, because if it didn't, when we talk about getting rid of the Confederate monuments and how the stars and bars aren't cool, if it didn't mean that, people like Kid Rock wouldn't fight so hard for it.
And wouldn't be hanging out with Ted Nugent.
Yeah. Once again, guys from a few miles away from Canada repping Southern culture.
Yeah.
No, he lives in Nashville now, so there you go.
Yeah, well,
And they booed him. Well, they didn't boo him. They just didn't cheer for him.
He got mad, didn't he? Didn't he walk off stage?
He got off stage because they weren't like clapping or something.
He had his panties in a bunch. He said that he wears panties because he talked about a group of people that had their panties in a bunch, and he said he was one of them.
Yeah.
So
I would have laughed. Yeah, if I'd been there, I definitely would laugh.
Yeah, that's definitely a show I never want to see in my life.
At all. Don't need to see that. Yeah.
And people are still drinking Bud Light. It is what it is.
Yeah. It is what it is.
Him included.
Yeah, exactly.
That part.
Yep.
That's the Kid Rock.
Not really.
I like the little person he used to hang with.
Yeah, that's DEI, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Rest in peace to him. I don't know what his
Yeah.
name
Oh, that's
is.
right. He passed
Hey,
away.
Jay Moore, you got to chill, man. Everything is DEI, 99% black, and then
Nah.
everything else.
Well, you know,
When you
That's
actually,
what
when
they
you
say,
actually,
that's what they telling you.
when you actually do the metrics, and this is, I want to include everybody in this,
Yes.
because black people included too,
Yep.
because DEI is not just a representation of you, and you actually did not benefit from it as much as you thought. And I experienced that with my current situation.
Oh,
But
word.
I'm not going to talk about
Okay,
it
yeah,
on
yeah,
the
I heard
show.
that.
But yeah, there is no DEI in place from where I, you know what I'm saying, what I'm doing. I had to get in on my own. I had to grind on my own in order to get to the position I'm
That's
at.
the thing.
So-
What
Out the mud.
what they're trying to do, and we'll let this go, is they're trying to dismiss certain people's hard work.
Yeah.
You know, and in a lot of
Absolutely.
they try to dismiss, you know, certain people's hard work, but at the same time, when you just look at people who are being appointed to positions in government now,
Come on, man.
these people have no business being
Zero
in these-
qualifications.
and that's the kind of thing that, you know, we talk about, is where it's like, hey, here I am, I have a degree in this, I have a degree in this, I have experience here and experience here, and you just hire this guy who said he likes you.
It's the entire irony of the entire situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the end of the day, all of it is American.
Facts.
Yeah, the good and the bad. It's American.
Can't ignore it.
Come on, man.
All right, so let's talk Drake. Drake is back in the news for something that he does very well, sales. But I want to talk about why. So Drake again demonstrated why he's one of music industry's biggest names, recording astonishing 92.4 million streams for his recent release with Party Next Door entitled "Some Sexy Songs for You." Jay Moore loves that title.
Great.
Although Day 2's numbers dropped by 41%, yes, he broke the previous record set by Kendrick Lamar at 92 million, just 100K less, just 2 days prior. But how many of these listens was the Kendrick effect to see if Drake wanted more smoke or not? So my thing is, with this, Jay Moore, you made a very good point in a meeting that we had when you said, why are certain people listening to Drake? And it could be a, ulterior motive just to listen to hate. Some people just listen to enjoy it. So what do you think is one of the things that is behind the actual spike for what went on with the sales?
I think, first of all, as long as there are girls and little kids out there who want something to kind of move to, and that's not a diss. That's not a diss. That's
I feel you,
what
though.
honestly moves the needle.
I feel you.
You know, Drake is always going to have a spot in the culture, if you will. He is in that place to where people who want to hate on him properly will listen to him. He's not in that place where there's some people who don't like Drake but listen to everything he does so they can hate from an educated place, if you will. I mean, look, I'll say the same thing about Jay-Z. Jay-Z, there are a lot of people who don't like Jay-Z, but they want to be very specific about why they don't like Jay-Z. So they'll listen to his project thoroughly so they can break it down and tell people why they don't like it. You know, and I think Drake is in that place as well. You know,
Especially with this new project, I think.
yeah. And so I think there are people who are like, okay, is there going to be more smoke? Do we, are we getting round whatever? Because I always listened to Drake's records, especially when I was still in heavy into the club business, because I was like, okay, which one of these are we going to have to run on Friday and Saturday night to see what really works?
Yeah, absolutely.
But, now that I'm not in that business, I didn't have the same sense of, not to the same extent I used to be. I don't have that same sense of urgency about seeing if there was something I could break.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. Even though I don't DJ every week, but I'm a working DJ out here.
Exactly.
For sure.
And then
for sure.
I'm a fan of music. So when I remove personally how I feel about this individual, Drake at the end of the day makes good music.
Facts.
If I want to keep it a buck, you know what I'm saying? I mean, of course, you're specific. You don't like R&B. So, and I'm gonna say something about this being R&B because it's not really an R&B album. Are we gonna talk about this album, or are we just gonna talk about?
I can't talk about the album, and I don't care to talk about the album.
Okay, well, I'll give some points.
I'm more so interested in the idea behind why him breaking the numbers and being close to Kendrick and all that stuff.
Okay.
Personally,
All right.
I have no interest in Drake's art.
Yeah, well, when we talk
Personally.
about numbers,
Mhm.
the numbers matters till they don't. So the day that it dropped, it was Drake has taken the top spot. Drake is back. Hurrah. Yay, yay, yay. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
From everybody that loves Drake. And this is me talking from somebody that just I love music. So I gave the Drake album a full listen. I finally got through all 21 songs. And it's funny how that hypeness changed after it dropped 44.1% the following day.
Right.
Then it turns into, oh, well, it's an R&B album. You know what I'm saying? Oh, the bots aren't helping him. It's that type of conversation that bothers me, because at the end of the day, we're still comparing Drake to Kendrick because of what happened last year. There's no way that we can get around that. I think that we're always going to get this comparison between Drake and Kendrick. And regardless,
I don't think we have to acknowledge it, right?
We don't, but we do when we're talking about this particular situation when it comes to numbers. Because if we're talking about numbers, people are now the excuse is, well, it's an R&B album. Again, like I said, I got to give credit when credit is due. He has some joints on there. It's cool.
I want to meet your madre.
That's terrible. That's terrible.
I got a question about that too coming up, but go ahead, bro. Finish.
Yeah, I mean, but what is the new definition of an R&B album if this is what we're talking about?
It's not this.
It's not this. Just because you included Party Next Door, who to me kind of sounds like Ty Dolla $ign, and he makes decent music.
That's fair.
This was an okay release. It's a release we were supposed to get from Drake to pretty much let you know he really don't want no smoke. This is the album that Kendrick even said I like the Drake to sing and the make the melodies and things of that nature.
Speaking of that, I'm gonna come back to you because that's another question that we had written down is, since you listened to the entire record, I got a chance to listen to it. I'm not going to lie and say I got all the way through it, but I did listen through it, to some of it. Did you find it interesting that there were some contradictions on the record?
Absolutely.
For example, he basically said, I'm cool on the beef. I just want to sing and make party records and sing to the girls. And then there was another record on the project where he actually somewhat alluded to still, I guess, if I want to paraphrase, wanting to smoke.
Well, so
how you feel about that?
I mean, it's typical Drake fashion, man. It's like there's a couple things on here that are typical Drake fashion on this album. That particular situation, so it was the song right before Give Me a Hug.
That's the one I've been seeing a lot.
That he alluded to. This is pretty much him talking to a girl. I don't, the title of that song escapes me, but yeah. He's talking to a girl and she's telling him to pretty much be cool, and he's saying, I'm not going to leave the beef alone. And then the following song, which is a really good song, I ain't going to front. When Drake want to talk his shit, he talk his shit. Yep. So on Give Me a Hug, he talks his shit, and it's good.
He's officially the Where's My Hug guy.
That's why I was laughing earlier.
We did have that conversation.
Where my hug at?
I mean, academics wants to be his friend, so I mean,
there's correlation there.
Yeah,
he definitely needs
7 degrees of separation, not Kevin Bacon. But it's Drake shit, man. So he says on the same song, she ain't trying to read a dictionary, she trying to twerk type shit. I take that as a shot at Kendrick, because Kendrick is considered the introspective artist that kind of makes people think, and that was obvious with the
Harriet Tubman music.
Yeah. SZA had his back.
Trying to free the slaves.
Yeah, and SZA had his back on that one. I don't know if y'all seen that tweet, but
no.
Drake is so funny when it comes to that type shit. He had another song on here is called Brian Steele, and whoever doesn't know who Brian Steele is Young Thug's attorney. So one of Brian Steele's points in this case against Young Thug was that we shouldn't be able to use rap lyrics to incriminate someone, right? You named a whole song Brian Steele in reference to Young Thug's attorney, and you're suing somebody based on lyrics.
Look, man, I don't think it's ever been as prevalent to me as right now in this moment how much I just don't give a about this shit at all. Like, I just don't care about him at all.
Yo, it's like, but for the sake of conversation, this is important.
I'll add commentary. I'm glad you like that record. Let's get back to that for the record.
That's a whole different record.
I know.
Yeah. I know.
But nah, man, the irony with Terry just said it's hilarious. But when I saw the sales for the initial sales, right? And then I go back to looking at while Kendrick's performing at the Super Bowl, the show in Australia where you can, they're doing a lot of the cutaways.
The one with the boots.
He's got the big Chewbacca boots on or whatever you want to call them.
Hey, Chewbacca didn't wear boots.
Oh, sorry. Well, it looked like his legs.
That was his feet.
Y'all knew where I was going.
I want the Star Wars people on your head, though.
Yeah, I feel you. I fool with Star Wars. But I say that to say, I'm not shocked because I'm the person that says he's still going to be Drake regardless of this battle. Now, it may not be to the rap portion. You remember, Lone, we were talking about that. But that show was sold out. This album is going to be okay. It's because he's still, the pop side of him is Teflon to me. That's not going to change.
Yeah.
As it relates to rap and then the corny contradictions and stuff like that, that's what's hurting him. It's not about the other side. The other side is going to be happy regardless.
Yeah, we're not really talking about Drake in the hip hop
Pantheon
anymore.
Yeah, like
he's
that
kind of Kendrick kind of got him out of here.
That part, I think that ship is sailed.
He can still yes, he can rap well when he wants to.
Yeah.
But
Oh, he got bars.
but you know,
Undeniable.
but a lot of people can rap. So
What'd you think about?
When you put his CDs on the table, it just, you can't talk about them the same way.
It depends on who you're talking to.
This is true. But
That's true.
I've never had one of his CDs on my table.
No, he got some good records, man.
Yeah, he has.
He got a couple albums that's fire. Mixtapes too now. Come on now.
What was the second one? Take Care.
That album got some heat.
Yeah, but I mean,
If you're reading this too late, it's good.
yeah. I mean, I'm not gonna take that away from him. But
Views
I'm
from
just
the
saying,
Six is good.
But then he got some joints where I'm like, yeah. I mean, I like a couple songs here and there, but these aren't in heavy rotation.
When we talk about classic material,
That's where you lose me.
I can't personally say that Drake has a classic
Rap album.
regardless of his numbers, and the numbers don't reflect personally how good the album is, and that's true to a lot of genres and music and things that have came out. Just because your album sells does not make it classic.
Yeah,
Just because you personally like it does not make it classic.
That's true.
Yeah, I think last week I got slammed a little bit because I made a joke of Drake is less Michael Jackson and Prince and he's more Madonna. But that's even kind of disrespectful to Madonna. So I can see that point.
Some Madonna fans showed up.
They sure did. And hey, shouts to them.
That's crazy.
Madonna,
how
a
you
whole
can say-
legend though.
You can literally whistle or
doesn't matter.
whisper anybody's name
It don't matter.
and they will show up.
It just,
It's happened to us multiple times, fan bases.
but at the same time, it's like somebody also said Milli Vanilli. And I'm like, okay, well, maybe it's closer.
Drake is bigger than Milli
Okay,
Vanilli.
that's-
I ain't gonna give him.
that's
I ain't gonna give him.
disrespectful to
I ain't gonna give him Milli Vanilli long.
Yeah.
Come on now, we can't do that.
I think we can disrespect
Maybe
it.
who's somebody else that sold a whole bunch of.
We can't do.
And I
Milli
hate to
Vanilli.
even make this comparison because it's like, well, they didn't have the longevity, but they sold.
How about Eddie
Hootie and the
Murphy?
Blowfish.
No.
How about Eddie
no,
Murphy?
No.
And
He had one big hit.
Stop,
One
man.
big hit.
yeah.
Drake. I mean,
Don't do
this
that.
is us being responsible and keeping it a buck. Drake has held this spot for a long time.
Yep.
Regardless of how we feel about his hip hopness, if that's even a word. He's held this spot for a long time. So he moves culture in the way that he moves culture.
Yeah.
Is it the culture that we want to identify with? That's a different story. Is this the new East Coast West Coast beef?
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe.
Maybe if you.
When it comes to music, I
I don't know.
It ain't gonna get that deep.
I don't know if it's going to get that deep.
I think it
because-
stops at Drake.
Lone, I have a question for you.
Shout out to Choclair. Shout out to Cardinal Fishaw. All
there
the
we
other
go.
Canadians.
Yeah.
Socrates. All the people.
Well
that's,
played.
Canada.
Well played.
We get it, Jay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know my Canadian hip hop.
Name another.
I did what I had to do.
Yeah.
Fresh Kills.
That's the Fresh Kills and Tona.
Yeah.
Shout out to Tony. Yeah. Fool
Oh yeah,
Tony.
that's right. That's right. These
What'd
three
you
words.
think? What'd you think about him rapping in Spanish?
I mean, it was funny.
I mean, that's what he does, though. He likes to jump from culture to culture.
I
He
mean,
does the island thing. He
here's
does the
my
Afrobeat
thing.
Yeah.
thing.
Well,
For
what'd you think?
Here's my thing. Like,
Give me the angle, the why.
he did exactly what Kendrick said that he does.
He did. He sure did.
I mean, it's
He
his,
sure did.
and I think he did it unironically. Like, I think he just like, you know what?
Or he
This is
wants to be the new Bad Bunny.
the worst bunny, as everybody's calling him.
Wow, that's
The worst bunny is actually funny,
Even
though.
that's funny, but even that, I'll be like, oh, this is a bit too far.
Is it though? Is it though? I want
I mean,
to
if it's
meet your madre and your padre.
Look, if it's
I want to
between,
say que pasa and we can vamos.
Yeah.
What you think about it? Is there anything there?
I think, look, Drake is exactly who we thought he was.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
This is why, like,
shout to Denny Green.
But they are who we thought they were. And we let them off the hook.
I know, for 2 weeks in a row, like, he just is. Like, he didn't change anything up.
No.
It's just exactly what he was before.
Yes.
He did exactly the same thing because this is all that he can do.
But this is a smart move.
Does it at a high level?
But this is the smart thing for him to do. Don't come back and try to be a
It
tough
is.
guy. Come back and be.
He was trying to be tough on Give Me a Hug. Even though it had the little Aaron Hall "I Miss You" sample in it.
Yeah,
It
but
ain't land,
He
though.
was trying to poke his chest out. No, it landed.
No, the toughness didn't land.
No, I mean, because it's Drake, man.
Exactly. The toughness didn't land. The record landed.
The bars.
Yeah, the bars
he
landed.
was doing his thing on there. Regardless of how he condescended and
that's the one I think is going to go.
dismissed himself, essentially. But yeah, that song goes.
He just needs to go to basketball games and make these records that work for women and children, and just keep it at that.
Jock Jams.
That's it.
And the
Well,
thing
I
is,
don't
like,
know.
no.
Y'all remember
Not
Jock Jams?
necessarily.
He ain't gonna make no Jock
And the
He
thing
need to
is,
take his own advice.
I mean, if it was
And-
in 1991, maybe he would make a Jock Jam. He definitely would.
and quite honestly, when I say that, and it sounds like I was being dismissive, but to make those records that hit with women and children, that's not easy.
No,
It's
for
not.
sure.
That is a specific talent that he has, and like,
He should just do it.
yeah, and he should run with that.
It hits with the guys too, because for some reason they think this is an album for them.
Yeah, they think he's the guy that all these guys aspire to be.
And plus, like, you got to understand,
Sexy songs for you guys.
there's a lot of people that
Exactly.
the quote unquote
Stupid.
dudes. They rock with it. Like, this is not Kendrick is not a guy that they can even relate to. You know what I'm saying? They can try the guy who's always trying to cake off for women. Like, that's somebody that Drake is, and that's who a lot of dudes can relate to. They can't relate to what Kendrick is talking about and all this street stuff and reading books.
It's like
Why are you so serious? Why
Yeah.
are you always talking about something
Drake,
real?
there's something we're going to talk about later, but Drake is like the embodiment of like trying to be nonchalant because you think that it's cool to be nonchalant.
Yeah.
And Kendrick's like, no, I'm going to actually try because it's actually, I don't care what it looks like. Trying matters. And that's really kind of what it comes down to. People that care more about looking cool as opposed to just like doing cool stuff. That's just all it is. Drake
Yes.
just wants to look cool.
Hey, listen, I'm telling y'all, he's gonna be just fine.
He's fun.
No, he's
Yeah,
just
gonna
fine.
be just fine.
And
He's
I
gonna be
mean,
just
we've
fine.
even had we've said that when it came down to is he done? No, he's not done.
nowhere near done.
Because he
No.
crossed over into the other threshold. This rap battle was a rap battle. That's why he wants to go back to getting the party lit. Because that's where he shines.
I guarantee you this though, the next record that he drops that's his, it's still going to be this, but there's going to be a couple joints where he's going to poke his chest out.
Well, this was essentially a Drake album featuring Party Next Door. I know they sold it as it was a joint album, but Drake carried a majority of this album.
Drake, you keep doing what you're doing right here. Maybe next year you can perform at halftime of the Grey Cup.
Wow.
I heard he might possibly have a soccer situation going on.
Okay,
Well,
see,
good.
there you
Yeah.
go. They don't
So-
have a halftime, but he can do something.
Well, they're doing something for the World Cup or something or another.
Maybe that's
he
why he's
might-
got the
he might
Madre and
be-
Padre song.
Hey, that's some pandering ass shit. Man. If they don't get Bad Bunny,
They can have Bad Bunny and the Worst Bunny all
Oh my
collectively on the
God,
same bill, man.
Yo, the Worst Bunny is hilarious. I'm sorry. That's brilliant. Whoever came
I
up with
laughed really hard when I saw that.
yeah, I didn't even see that one. I need to see whoever said that. Kendrick and Drake, as an artist, they're in totally different leagues, man.
And that's fine. That's how it should. That's how it should be.
yeah.
Yeah. No, for sure.
Know your role.
Thanks to our partners. Dr. Coleman of Coleman Dental is our go-to dentist. He's a longtime Indianapolis arts and music supporter located right in Broad Ripple. Our good friends at Indie CD and Vinyl operate one of the best record stores in North America. Shop new and used in their site or visit them in person. And the best way to support the New Old Heads is to visit our Patreon and become a member. All details on newoldheads.com. We've been kind of holding on to this topic for a while, and it finally kind of makes sense to talk about nepotism in music a little bit.
Yes.
So Lonegevity Ball, aka Gelo, made his live television debut at the Chase Center on Saturday, performing his single Tweaker ahead of the NBA All-Star three-point contest. With much discussion around the enormity and care done by Kendrick Lamar and his focus on putting hip-hop at the front with excellence, Gelo's performance was not only not particularly impressive, but also kind of showcased a problem with nepotism in music by pushing what's hot instead of what's good. And furthers the discussion around popular rap music industry that we've talked about and how it juxtaposes with hip hop culture in that particular type of way. Did you guys see his performance?
I sure did.
Yeah, unfortunately. I was like, oh no.
For the 99 and 2000 is what it sound like.
He had that little break in there real quick.
Oh.
He thought he was doing something with that little break too.
But
You heard me?
So with all this being said, a YouTube creator that goes by Nathan Zed created a video pretty recently called How Trying Became Cool Again, and highlights the late resurgence of people who actually take their art seriously and the recognition that these artists are actually starting to see, like Doechii, Tyler, Chapel Roan. These are artists that have been around for a very long time. Even Kendrick, right?
Yep.
So let's watch the short snippet of this video, which I also highly suggest you checking the whole thing out, and then we can kind of jump into the conversation in a handful of ways.
About a month ago, an artist named Doechii went viral for her talk show performance. This set had her and 2 other girls with elaborate hair, choreography, rapping really well. And the biggest tweet that came from this was, making those Harriet Tubman music is the cheat code for getting respected in rap. Now, this is an amazing tweet. This is just an amazing combination of words. This random assortment of words specifically chosen to piss people off. I gotta give it to you. This is a work of art. But this is part of an attitude that has been around for a while now. Don't do too much. This performance had nothing to do with politics, Harriet Tubman, slavery, nothing. She kind of just assumed that from the amount of effort that was being put in. Over time, it has become uncool to just try, like just to put in some effort. Don't do too much, okay? It's embarrassing. Just be nonchalant, be cool, be effortless. This has made everything boring. Everyone is too scared to try because that will be vulnerable. And I feel like only now are we seeing a shift back to people putting in effort and being rewarded for it. But more on that later. How did we even get here in the first place? Because it wasn't always like this.
The death of effort is 100% right.
Ain't that right?
I mean, this guy.
The video's really good.
Yeah. He nailed it though. I
did actually a full react to this video, which I'm going to drop in the next couple of days. But like this kind of ties into the Gelo performance, the Kendrick performance, and the fact that they happened 1 week after each other. It really kind of, I don't want to make it about Gelo necessarily.
Right.
It's more so kind of what he represents.
Fruit at this
But it's what he represents, right? Yeah. He's somebody who made a rap song, he got big, and because he's big, they put him on a big stage, as opposed to somebody like Kendrick, who's been working at this for 15 plus years.
Kendrick ain't doing All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, but you know what? You could have gotten.
That's not the point, though.
Yeah,
the point
is,
I'm just talking shit.
Yeah.
But Gelo actually getting, to Lone's point, Gelo getting to the All-Star game to perform this record that he just put out. Well, how many months, Terry? How long has this record been out?
Okay.
To me, it makes perfect sense, but go ahead.
No, I'm just asking you. I can't remember how long it's been out.
2 months.
2 or 3 months, probably?
Yeah, 2-3 months.
How does it make sense?
I know the angle he's going to say. Go ahead, bro.
It makes sense to me just because he played basketball and the entertainment at the whatever night that they decide to showcase during the NBA All-Star Weekend is not always top tier. This is kind of par for the course. I mean, not to take anything away from Damian Lillard, but nobody knew he rapped until he performed at the All-Star game, essentially. He rapped
outside of us that knew.
Outside of us who knew.
Yeah.
So the All-Star game to me it's not the same stage as the Super Bowl. Now,
I'm not saying it is.
Nepotism was included in this, and he's not a quality artist. Absolutely. Like he hasn't been through the gauntlet that TDE. TDE is pretty much the pinnacle of things right now when it comes to a network of artists that actually put on and put out good product.
Right.
Because they make sure that happens. Gelo is not one of those people. I mean, he put out a song that still had the producer credit in it because it probably
was a BeatStars beat.
Yeah, it probably wasn't.
He bought it from BeatStars,
so it wasn't all the way paid for licensing.
It's probably leased, and the producer's probably getting a decent amount of money from it.
Oh, he's getting a lot of money right now.
So that's the reason why I said it makes sense. Now, from an effort point of view, this is just what people have gotten used to, and I think this is what he's alluding to as far as the rise of the artist. And I kind of talked about this a couple
what
weeks
I'm alluding
ago
to as well. Yeah.
When I said that era of the artist is coming back into fruition as far as people expecting more out of people.
Mm-hmm. I think what's interesting about this is the timing. Coming off the Super Bowl, going directly to the opposite.
Yes.
Right? Because Terry did bring this up a couple weeks ago about the new shift or pivot. And I said, do we think this is something that is going to get legs and last? I still think it's there, but it's just ironic how fast this performance was after everything that had been the groundswell, the Grammys, then going into the Super Bowl. And then it's like, okay, now we got dude performing old Cash Money record, essentially.
Gelo's not going to perform at any award show.
No, but I think what I'm talking about is the fact that it's so popular how popular it is the conversation, because we talked about the pivot or the possible pivot, and then this just goes totally against the pivot that we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because like this record is very popular.
It's still going to exist.
Right.
It's about what's going to take the forefront right now. That's kind of where I'm coming from. I think this type of music, this type of effort is still going to exist. But people are going to start expecting more, I hope, out of the people that we actually deem as stars.
See, I don't think across the board. I think there will be pockets of people that will expect more. But I still think the Gelos, if we're going to use that as an example, like to say it, the Gelo crowd or whatever, is going to dominate still.
So I guess that was my point when I was originally when I asked you about like why, I forget what I said, but it was
why do I think that?
Yeah, why? Because at the same
sense,
right? Because I it's not that I don't agree with what you're saying about why. Yes, the All-Star Game is kind of low hanging fruit, but my thing is like, why are we accepting? It's like such a big scale to be on national television at a halftime show, even if it's a 3-point contest, to be out there and perform in front of a crowded. It's aired on television, that's aired on HBO, and all this stuff, and we're just like, yeah, that's cool, that's normal. Not that that's what you're saying, but I'm saying in general, we're like, that's to be expected, right? My thing would be like, what would be necessary to, and I think I already know the answer to this, but what would be necessary to stop this from happening? You know, and I think it's like the program directors and stuff like that, obviously, but
the program directors for these events are just like what's left of the record labels. They're still going to look at, well, the kids like it, the numbers is moving.
It's a viral moment. That's
moment.
That's all they were thinking about. They didn't care if he was talented or not.
Yeah, Gelo's record is a viral record.
Yep.
Right? So when we look at the talent from a talent perspective, and we look at
ratings,
that's it. Like those program directors are just like the labels. What is going viral?
I'm going to tell you what they did get right. So the actual day of the game, Raphael Sadiq is the artist that pretty much introduced the game. And he introduced a melody of songs and a melody of there was actually the DJ that wears a hat. I can't remember his name.
D-Nice?
I
Not
was about to say
the other dude.
He's from the Bay.
Cassidy.
Yeah,
from the Bay.
Yeah,
Cassidy, yeah. So he was featured in this performance as well.
Is Gelo from the Bay?
No. That's California.
Well, California is still
LA.
the Bay, but LA.
Yeah.
But they used their segment to showcase the sounds of Oakland. So
and I think that's cool.
That
that's
was fire.
That's what it should be.
It was fire. Then you had E40 and you had Too Short. You had Saweetie.
In Vogue.
You know what I'm saying? So when we talk about an artist, from an artist's point of view, that was the optic that
for sure
that we're looking for.
That's what I would like to see.
Exactly, and that's the actual night of the game, which is more viewed than the Friday night.
And to Terry's point, that halftime show speaks more to the sector or section
that was before the game.
I mean,
started.
I'm sorry, because he did the intros, but they also did it was so chopped up how they did it. So one felt like the halftime show, the other one was intro. But the list of artists that he named goes more towards what he's talking about in that sector of the, I don't know what we want to call it, the caring sector.
Yeah, that's why I said
it
makes sense. It makes, and we're talking about the NBA All-Star Game. So the format is always, generally Friday, you don't get as much viewership. Saturday, you'll get a lot more viewership because it's the dunk contest, the 3-point contest, the skills challenge, things of that nature. And then you get the All-Star Game. So the actual artists were showcased on the most important night. Gelo, his brother introduced him.
Yep.
It made sense.
No, it didn't.
From an NBA and somebody related to the NBA point of view, in my personal opinion.
From that angle, but I guess what I would say too is like, we just had an All-Star Game here, and I know a lot of these people that were booking the talent for the
those
different
weren't
areas.
televised.
Not all of them, but in general, a lot of the stuff that was going around talent-wise in the city.
It's better than Gelo, 100%.
Well, but I guess what I'm saying is like that was curated very carefully, okay? And so And it sounds like it was there as well, too, by people that know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. My angle on this with the nepotism piece is that there's no reason for LiAngelo Ball to be rapping on a stage like that because he's not qualified to be on that stage yet. Even if his brother's a part of it, he's only there because of exactly what you just said. The fact that there is a connection because there is a viral moment, not because the people that are probably curating it even want him on there.
But what's your favorite word?
Yeah,
When we talk about capitalism,
What's your favorite word? Yeah.
What is going to get people to tune in to this program?
Not that.
It is.
I'm gonna tell you
just
why.
said it's a viral moment.
I'm gonna tell you why. I'm gonna tell you why.
I almost turned it off when he did.
I'm gonna tell you why. One, it's the viral moment part, right? We're gonna set that to the side. The nepotism can be the opposite way because you got his brother and you got to remember who their dad is.
For sure.
So you take, he's a prophet at this point. All of his sons are successful. One didn't hoop as well, but he rapping at the All-Star game Saturday night or whatever.
Yeah.
But all of that does go into one of the reasons why he's there. Now, but on to the flip side,
I'm not saying that's not though.
But I feel what you're saying because he just started. He put the record out 2 months ago.
It doesn't mean that he belongs just because all the other pieces are a part of it. To me, that bastardizes the art.
Because you're saying he's not technically qualified to be in that position.
He's not qualified to be in that position yet because he can't perform, and we watched him not be able to perform well at all.
Multiple times.
He just walked around the stage, and
he had a
at least
his vocals.
He had a little bit of a backing track, but he was actually had his mic on.
But when Terry says it makes sense, that's what I was just
from a capitalist point of view. For sure,
that part it makes 100% makes sense
from that angle. But I'm saying from an artistic, creative point, it doesn't. Like
it doesn't.
Anybody that's curating something like that. If I'm a curator, if you're a curator, if anybody's a curator, we're probably gonna be like, well, do we have to?
But they don't care.
So I'm gonna tell you another issue that we have in hand. So there's a whole lot of people that know who Gelo is and have no clue who Raphael Sadiq is.
Yeah.
Which is crazy work, but a fact, 100% fact.
Which is why we need people in these places to put artists in the places that they belong to be in.
Let me ask you this, Lone. Let me ask you this, because actually I agree with you.
I hope.
I agree with you. But can we trust said people when they're put in that position?
And do you mean the people that are actually organizing?
So let's just say we find the people that we think are the correct gatekeepers or...
Here's the thing. And I know I'm probably arguing against the wall at this point. Not with you guys, but just the point that I'm making doesn't make any sense because the system is not set up that way. But I feel like those people are probably already in place if Raphael Sadiq was out there doing his thing.
That's fair.
Because Raphael Sadiq doesn't make sense from that particular standpoint. Even though he's a part of,
when it comes to Oakland,
he's a whole legend.
Perfect.
Yeah, he's a whole legend.
They were just on tour last year or something.
Yeah.
His group. And
Tony.
With literally somebody who I was literally teaching at Decademics was their DJ for that.
Facts.
Opened up. So I'm well aware, but at the same time, like Rafi, I got off track. But I don't think it's the people. I think it's the system in place. And I don't,
it's absolutely the system.
And I just want to highlight the fact that it's not right.
No, you're right.
Not
You're
right.
right. I mean, are we not arguing that you're wrong? You're right.
I actually want to. So Jay Moore shared a video with me that talked about how it actually went into the Grammys and things of that nature. As far as there's not any boutique record labels. And you can expound on this if you want to.
It was just about if some of you know who L.A. Reid is.
Yeah.
Right. LaFace, you know what I'm saying? Signed Outkast, signed, TLC, Usher, there's a lineage there. And he talked about how when you looked at the Grammy stage, there, no diss to anybody, but outside of, at this point, TDE, who were the faces of the culture on stage.
Right.
And it was
like one-offs.
Yeah. And it was nothing like it used to be. Okay, this is Uptown. This is Def Jam. This is Death Row. This is
Bad Boy.
Yeah. And now when you look at the stage, you're like, okay, if it isn't TDE, who are the black faces specifically? And it's like,
who's putting forth effort?
But also this goes back to a conversation that we all had on this show. Who are the OGs? Who are the gatekeepers? Who are the people making decisions who gets signed? And that goes into who gets on stage, because even where I'm looking at Gelo, like I have to think outside of what I would want to see, but I'm like, okay, well, where's real Boston Richie? Where is Boss Man D-Lo?
Yes.
Where's Glorilla? Where
E40 was smiling in the front row.
you know where
He performed.
He performed though.
Oh, did he?
But
Yeah.
where, but
On the
where
main
are
night.
the current artists? How did Gelo get to leapfrog all these people who actually have a track record of success? Even if it's, once again, I'm almost 48 years old. It's not my music, but I realize when you talk about that demographic, the people who care about Kotzenet and the people who care about what's
my boy?
Drewski,
Yeah.
the people who care about that, who would be watching on a Saturday night.
And they both played in the game.
Exactly. And so I'm like, okay, well, something isn't lining. So you can, it's only nepotism and a viral moment that can speak to why Gelo even got the look.
Bro, that could have been what's my boy's name? That could have been Big X the Plug. It could have.
I guess this goes, I mean, I know we all know this in general, and most of us listening and watching also know this as well, but like sometimes we see the word nepotism and we think, it's not so bad.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with nepotism is that it automatically just jumps in front of everybody that is qualified and has put the work in.
So it's
What they think DEI
family
is.
DEI.
Yeah, that's what they think. That's actually good. That's
what
good.
they think DEI is.
Yeah, that's good.
No, DEI is different in the sense
it is.
that
We know it's different.
DEI
That's-
gives different, I will have to clarify, obviously, because people don't know what DEI is, but
True.
DEI just gives everybody a potential shot that actually has put the work in, as opposed to nepotism just gives people the shot that have not put the work in.
And there are different types. Obviously,
If I worked for a very long time and I have a really big fan base in my city, and my city rocks with me, and then Gelo comes out and drops this record and you pick him over me, and I'm doing all the things and the city wants to see me, the culture of the city wants to see me, to me that's problematic. Or
I agree.
Swap me out for anybody.
Just like you
right?
said, Sweetie, because she's from the Bay, right?
Yeah.
That should have been her spot.
The solo spot.
Well, I mean,
for-
she performed.
She did.
She got
but
a bigger
that-
look, actually. If
She
we're gonna be
did,
honest.
but
she got a bigger
that
look.
should have. If you are from the Bay, then that should have been your look. It should have been a hyphy moment. It should have been whoever is out there. Like I said, I don't know all the names, so I'm not going to mess around and get them wrong. But if Sweetie is where Sweetie is, then she should have performed. They should have had, or maybe you have Sweetie perform on Saturday night and you give E40 and In Vogue a longer amount of time to perform. I don't know. Like I said, but when I see Gelo out there, I'm like, in a way, I get it, but at the same time, I'm like, yeah, he could have done something
But
else.
you know what? There's been a running theme, and Lone, you said this you say this a lot, specifically to me. You say, Mike, you just care. Sometimes you care too much. We'll talk about certain things as
I
it
think you
relates.
care too much about people, but
Not. I'm talking about the people for sure. I know you don't care about people, but just the culture. In general, you be like, yeah, maybe you just care too much. And with the Gelo performance, it just shows you that even the people that care, we'll say, because they clearly care off Sunday, can still be manipulated by the system. It is going to be hard to break. That cycle is going to be extremely hard to break because at the end of the day, the numbers don't lie. And it's not right, but it's hard to break. To actually think what is the solution to break that cycle, this cycle, is beyond me because I just don't know how you can gather it in to catch it and break it.
Because it's deeper than the music. It's damn near rooted in society now.
Yep.
And it goes back to how we're talking about how people even act at the club.
Mm-hmm.
I can talk about my first experiences going out versus how it is now.
yeah, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
like people
for
would
sure.
people would leave. They would be coming up out of items. I mean, Nelly had a song
Bruh.
that's getting hot in here.
True.
Like that era of having fun in the party. I mean, it wasn't as extreme as that video, but that wasn't over.
It was a thing, man.
Now we're in a situation to where people are too cool to have fun.
That's it.
And it's spilled over into effort.
That's it.
So like I don't have to put forth as much effort because all I'm gonna do is come to the club and everybody's gonna put their phone up to show that I'm here and write a cool caption and post it, talk about how it's a movie and go back to being boring.
Yeah.
What's
You know what I'm
the
saying?
phrase?
Because people are too afraid of being called a tryhard.
that part. And
Or they just too cool to have fun.
And what's the phrase that you always?
exactly.
What is the phrase that we always historically we've always heard as it relates to records? Lupe Fiasco or so. I'm just going to use them as an example. What I always hear, this phrase has not changed. Don't nobody want to hear all that. Like that, what you're basically saying is I don't want to think. I don't want to have to think about anything. I don't want to read. I don't want to hear about any of that. Ain't nobody trying to hear all that. And that's essentially what we're talking about. Nobody wants to hear all that. And then to Terry's point, that is a great point about the comparisons between then and now. Everything is a fake movie.
I think it's much more amplified now.
It is by far.
Because like when I think about, I don't know if you guys remember the first time you were able to go out to like a bar or something, like, and you're young. Like first time I took my brother out, you guys know my brother. He was so drunk he was falling up the stairs. I mean, hey, seriously, like it was like at the Old Peppers, but it was like
there were moments.
We were just out there just creating and just having fun, like creating moments.
Those
and
were
doing
real
stuff.
movies.
That's actual movies.
And it was like it's just kind of what it was, and now it's just kind of like everybody. To your guys' point, it's just like everybody is so focused on. It translates over into like the dating sphere and all that other. Which, God bless, I don't have to do any of that.
Man,
but like but it's everywhere. It's everywhere. Everybody is like competing for like this narrated, curated look.
I think
but you know that.
And it goes and it affects everything.
It's and this can be applied to so many things. It all can be funneled back to the power of social media, perception, followers. All of this stuff can be funneled back into that, whether it's in the club, whether it's dating. You see people go out on a date. Oh, had a great first date. This guy's great. What do you see on social media? A picture of the plate.
Yeah.
You don't see anything about the date or just people posting about a couple paragraphs. Hey, I had a great time. This guy was great. It's a picture of the plate. It's selfies. It's all of this. It's a facade. Like everything is about.
Life is a spectacle at the end.
That's what it is, bro.
And it's only glimpses of what you want to share.
Yeah, because.
And so when people go out, they want to hold on to that persona of always being in the moment in order to be photographic. To be captured photographically versus actually going out and letting loose and having a good time.
Because we live in a highly insecure society.
Yes.
Well, I mean,
nobody wants to.
Everybody's too cute. I'm too cool for that, man. I don't want to jump up and down with my friends in a circle and have a good time because somebody might see it.
Jay sees it. He's seen it.
I mean,
I know
nightly,
you see it.
You know,
well, this is the thing, and I've always said this about, and people talk about this, the main character syndrome, or whatever. You know, I see different ways of putting it, but now with the advent of social media, everybody thinks they're a little bit famous.
Yes.
Oh my God.
So when you go out, you know, you think people are there to see you. So you're not having the same kind of. I mean, it depends. I'm not saying everybody, but my name was on the flyer, fam, and I don't feel like people are there to see me. So how is it that you just think you can show up? You paid to get in. How are people here to see you when you paid to get in?
That's a good analogy.
You know,
that's a very good analogy.
And I think that's part of what it is. It's like, you know, that's why nobody can have a good time because they think, okay, I'm the star of wherever I go. And so when I take these pictures or these videos or these snaps, you know, this is what people, I'm letting people down if I don't create content.
But you're not, though.
Yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. People feel like if I don't create content whenever I at somewhere, it doesn't have to be good content. It could just be me standing with a bottle that somebody else bought, you know, and I'm in my hand, and that can be the movie. Me fronting like I'm somebody instead of actually just being myself in a space where I'm supposed to be having a good time, you know, and getting a couple phone numbers and then going home.
You know what's crazy, man?
When they take their cool off.
And that translates over again back to kind of what we're talking about here with the virality moment and why certain people are selected to do certain things and, you know, how all that plays in together is, you know, the person who chose to have them on stage got the pressure because of everything that you said, Terry, about how it makes sense to put this in this particular type of, because they're trying to apply that to that. And
that person literally could have been to the point where if they say no, you might not have a job.
For sure.
No, I think that's part of it because they're like, once again, I sometimes I think about myself, but also I think about like if my dad turned on the TV and saw Drewski or Kai Cenat, he'd be like, what the hell is this? But once again, he's 30 years older than me.
Right.
So like, and if I'm, you know, like if I'm looking at this stuff at almost 48 years old and I don't care, you know, but you got to think about the people who do care. Like, well, it's a lot of times when people watch an award show and like, I see this on a pretty regular basis, but like, or like when the BET Awards come on or the Grammys, it doesn't matter. And they'll be like, oh, I just don't understand who these people are. And it's like, yeah, because you're 47. You're not in the target demographic to where they're trying to sell soft drinks or tennis shoes to anymore. You realize that you have You have grown out of what advertising agencies think is cool. And a lot of times they're wrong. Advertising agencies will be like, hey, put Gelo and Kaisenat on. And
the kids love them.
The kids love them. That's what
they also don't watch TV.
Exactly.
That's the thing. They're actually too cool. Yeah.
And I think that's the thing that is so oxymoronic about all this shit. It's just like
everybody's the opposite. Like
it's just like y'all think you're cool, but you're just like your friend.
You're a carbon
like everybody else. You're
like,
just like everybody else.
It's a attack of the clones, man.
I don't know.
So this topic here is about A$AP Rocky. If you didn't know, he's been in a court trial for the past almost a month. And he was found not guilty on 2 felony counts of assault with a semi-automatic weapon. The trial stemmed from an incident that happened in 2021 where Rocky was accused of shooting his former friend, Terrell Efron, or A$AP Trelly, something like that, during an argument. And Efron claimed that he had suffered minor injuries from the shooting. I'm guessing that I think somebody said it was a prop gun or something like that, or it wasn't a real gun. But anyway, again, the trial lasted almost a month. And Rocky faced up to 24 years if convicted. And he rejected a plea deal. The plea deal was him serving 180 days in jail, which is obviously a big difference between 24 years.
Yeah. Facts.
But his thing with that was he has a lot of endorsements going on. I mean, he's a model, I think, for like Calvin Klein. He rocks a runway for a lot of these high fashion people. And I mean, his wife is Rihanna. Not necessarily white, but his girl's baby mama.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
He didn't want to alienate himself or pretty much put himself in a box by taking those 180 days.
Yeah.
So he decided to go to trial, which was a big gamble in this situation.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
With that being said,
I guess maybe it wasn't.
It wasn't. I mean, he came out victorious.
He must have known something.
Yeah, like that he didn't do it.
Yeah.
He knew something.
So with that being said, like, how do y'all feel about an artist being put, or just a person in general, being put in that situation to where somebody's saying you did something, and you could have took the 180 days and been done with it, versus gambling and throwing your life on the line for 24 years?
It's touchy, man, because like
there's video.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even if like you didn't do it, there's still a chance.
Absolutely.
So like you could, who knows, like if your attorneys are not on their game or something,
right,
you could go to jail for something that you didn't do.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it's like the fact that he is a well-known figure, he is connected, and he doesn't really rap that much anymore. Not really. He's doing a whole bunch of other stuff realistically.
Yeah.
So
doesn't have to.
It's his livelihood.
Baby mama's a billionaire.
Yeah,
that's
he
true.
good.
He doesn't
He is
really.
good.
So I guess that's another argument. He doesn't really need any of
He's a
these other.
stay-at-home dad at this point.
Yeah, wear weird clothes and stay home.
But maybe it's just the principle of it too. I don't know.
For real. I mean, because at the end of the day, you have a reputation to uphold. So if somebody is claiming that you shot them, and again, Jay Moore said there's tape. I don't know what kind of gun showed up in that tape, but there was an altercation that was being shown on that tape. It was filmed. And you felt that strongly about, I'm not taking these 180 days. I'm about to gamble with this 24-year conviction versus me doing 180 days. And also I want to keep my career that I have intact versus regardless of who I'm dating or who I have kids by. I want to make sure that my career still flourishes and I'm able to contribute to the household as well as I can.
Yeah. This speaks to what Lone talked about as it relates to Gelo. Say what you want about him and Rihanna and the Billy, which is great, but A$AP has worked to get to where he is now.
Yeah,
he has a brand, to Terry's point, to keep intact. He put work in to do that.
Yep.
So it takes balls to go this route, if you will, knowing what the consequences may be on the other side. Mm-hmm. So I give him peace because first of all, I don't want to see anybody that's unjustly, put in jail. That's not cool, especially if he didn't do anything. But it takes balls for him to, he must have known, I didn't do this for real. We about to take this to court and I feel comfortable. So I got to respect that. I'm glad.
Or he just had good representation.
Or it could be that too. But the fact that they chose to do that, that's big, man.
What did he do? What did he do to his former friend to make him want to send him to jail for 24 years?
And also, look, man, when we talk about the justice system, when you look at what really goes on, we don't really have a justice system. We have a police system, right? And if they think that he actually did it and there was videotape, say in your heart, you know, you was out there playing with them guns in California, which is not a good look. 180 days. They let you off light and
very light.
You know, you might do a third of that with good behavior. Look, all I know is, I had, somebody that I know that got caught up with some things and got 3 years in the feds.
Listen.
And, he only really did like a year and a few days. You know what I'm saying? It used to be if you got fed time, you did it all. Yeah, they're not trying to keep these people in jail anymore like that. And so I remember when I initially saw it, I was like, man, if I know I have this much going on, I can always explain to people, it's like, look, I just wanted to get this over with. That's how, and we can keep this train with these corporate entities running because, honestly, people are way more forgiving about certain things than they were, say, 20 years ago, to where even you having an outside baby might have messed up your shoe money.
Yeah.
Now it's like, all right, well, nobody died. You know what I'm saying? You can still keep these corporate endorsements. Like the game has changed a lot in that manner. But if he really felt like I didn't do anything wrong and he carried this too, because when I saw this, I was like, man, when like I said, you said it, the difference between 180 days and 24 years.
Mm-hmm. It's like a difference between $1 billion and $1 million.
Man, look, let me tell you something. I'll be like, I'll do 180 days.
That's
like
what
it's
I'm saying.
Nobody's business, and then I get
right back out there.
180 days, I'll be out before it really get hot. I'll get out before it's really hot outside.
Did Lil Wayne even do 180 days?
He did a year.
He did. Okay,
he did. But gun in New York, you doing a year.
Listen, 180 days. So I'm gonna give him his P's because I'm gonna give him his P's because he literally put his life on the line, like for real.
No,
24 years is for real.
Yeah,
he decided that his career was worth risking,
and not even his career, maybe
to a jury. His career was worth risking putting a jury, putting this case in their hands, to decide my outcome that he decided to go through with this. So
and maybe he didn't want to be away from his kids for 180 days. It could be his.
Man, listen,
we talk about career. Like
if I'm talking about kids, though, I'm taking 180 days
as opposed to 24 years and never seen them again.
24 years, like they're grown now,
right?
So he really felt strongly about this situation that me putting myself in this position to take this court to trial, even though I'm facing 24 years, this is a detriment to what I'm seeing at and what can possibly be down the line as far as other endorsements, other tours, other, I'm saying, things that are going to benefit me and my family, regardless of what Rihanna's bringing to the table. Because at the end of the day, I got to stand up and be a man. And he did just that. I ain't mad.
I'm not mad at him either. Yeah. Shout out to him.
That's scary, though.
Didn't he get in some trouble that Trump had to help him get out?
No, because he was locked up overseas. Yeah. But I remember, I'll never forget what he said, when it was time, when the whole Mike Brown thing came out, and he was one of those people. Him and Young Thug both said, and it's crazy because both of them wound up in real legal trouble.
Yeah.
We're talking about no, we over here, we have nice clothes and we iced out, and I don't have time to be worried about social things like that, basically. But they both had that same kind of oh, it don't affect me, I'm getting money, and I was like, oh, both of you wound up in the system too. So
talk that,
it is what it is.
Yeah, don't get out here and be too American.
Yeah, don't think it can't happen to you,
Don't
dog.
think your capitalism is as big as the other capitalism.
Say that. Because it's two different types. What you say, Terry? That's two different types of capitalism.
It's two different types. It's actually probably more than two, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. Be careful.
All right.
NewOldHeads.com for all the education you need this year. If you see it, like it, subscribe, leave a reaction, 5 stars. We need all that stuff. And don't forget to check out our Patreon page as well. We have a lot of cool options, a lot of cool giveaways, things of that nature. We appreciate your support, and we'll see y'all next week. Peace.
In a minute.